Hi, I'm Lisa Johnston, editorial director at the Path to Purchase Institute. And today I'm excited to be speaking with Holly Evey, senior commerce marketing manager at Gallo, and Shock Torem, SVP of media solutions at Vestcom, about how brands can connect in-store retail media to revenue. So Holly, Shock, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
It's great to have both of you. Really excited to have this conversation. Let's start with a couple just really quick intros. Tell us about who you are and tell us why we have both of you speaking together here today. So, Holly, I'm going to go to you first.
Thanks, Lisa. My name is Holly Evey. I'm Senior Manager, Commerce Investments and Commerce Marketing at Gallo. My focus is truly on third-party vendors. I've been focused on this over the last 2 years, in addition to managing all of our commerce investments for our largest business unit at Gallo. We've been really partnering with Vestcom over the last 2 years as an always-on approach for kind of our shelf focus and on our SKUs, which is why I have the pleasure of speaking with Shock today.
Shock, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you, Holly. I've been in the industry for 30 years, started out on the brand side for about a dozen years, working for companies such as Coca-Cola and General Mills, then shifted to the marketing services side, working for companies such as Catalina, Quotient, and now here at Vestcom, where I'm the SVP of Media Solutions. Fundamentally, we partner with retail media networks, brands, and shopper teams to optimize the in-store shopper engagement and ultimately change shopper behavior.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to be talking today about in-store retail media. Can't talk about in-store retail media without talking about how it's changed, right? So traditionally, it's really played a supporting role, but there's certainly a lot of momentum behind it right now. So Shock, I'm going to ask you to kind of set the stage and talk about what's changed, what's really driving this shift.
Certainly. Yeah, I think it's interesting that you suggest that in-store retail media has had a supporting role. I think it certainly has within the scope and context of retail media. But it suggests that while in-store communications are new to retail media, they've actually, as we all very well know, been critical components of the retailer merchandising strategy for decades, right? So the real shift that's occurring and the change I believe that we're witnessing is really a natural progression for retail media networks as they continue to evolve and identify new and more effective ways to monetize their audience, is a realization and a progression that the in-store audience is just as, if not more so, important than the digital audience. And that digital audience is the backbone of where retail media networks were initially formed. And now they're understanding that when they consider the scale and the relevance of the eyeballs in a brick and mortar environment as a media audience, the in-store opportunity becomes much more intriguing from a media standpoint. So you have this shift that's occurring with really combining merchandising strategies that have long been communicating to shoppers in store with media and retail media strategies coming together. And it's really exciting to see the evolution of how that's happening today.
It is exciting to see. It's really moving more to the center of the retail strategy, and which means the physical space it's being rethought of as a performance channel, right? So now some of that's easy to say, right? So for some categories like adult beverages, the path is not always straightforward. And so Holly, that's why we're especially excited to have you here today, because being within adult beverage, there's this added layer of complexity on a lot of things, many of the things that brands have to contend with. So can you talk a little bit about how some of these compliance challenges shape your in-store approach?
I was previously with non-adult bev for a decade. So when I came over to the adult bev side, I truly had to throw out my playbook. It really requires an omni-channel marketer to look at some of those tactics that they may have written off because of some of the compliance reasons that aren't allowed within adult bev. So overall, still heavy POS, still heavy display focus. We've seen strides really been made on a digital off-platform perspective. But as Shock said, the closer we can get to the point of purchase in both in-store and e-com, that's where we have the most untapped potential because of how much is still being purchased in-store. So from a Gallo perspective, our third-party vendors like a Vestcom or what we call performance marketing, that allows us to market in a state legal approach based on those unique challenges between the markets. So even more reason why we are so focused on really getting to that last foot of purchase for the adult bev shopper.
And that's really important, right? I mean, being able to navigate compliance while still finding ways to show up meaningfully at the point of purchase. It takes creativity, it takes precision. So then how can you talk about some of the ways your brands are bringing storytelling to life at the shelf, especially when it comes to driving impulse or cross-category purchases?
Yes. So we've learned from both Vestcom insights and then validated from the Gallo side as well that 76% of adult bev purchases are still being made in brick and mortar at shelf. So even more reason why Vestcom, especially those shelf tags, are so important to capturing those last purchases. Over the last 2 years, we've really been focused on our creative testing with this partnership with Vestcom. We're benchmarking across occasion-based messaging, accolades, tasting notes, and even imagery like bottle shots versus some of those more occasion-based images as well to find that right combination. And it's truly been interesting as we've been looking at wine versus spirits versus ready to drink. There's a different strategy that works for each one of those categories. So once we figured out the winning combination of that, we've been able to see some of our brands double in iROAS through Vestcom by applying some of those top learnings. And on average, we've seen our portfolio sales lift with Vestcom supported brands between 3 and 5% in total grocery. So Lisa, think about it this way. By having that always on approach, we're seeing our brands with that tag support at shelf see a lift while the overall industry is having challenges right now.
That is really exciting. And it's a good segue, Shock. I want to bring you into this conversation within the larger industry, within the work that Vestcom does with some of its other CPG partners. How much of what Holly's saying aligns with what you're seeing elsewhere?
I think Holly hit upon a key fundamental truth in shopper behavior. She kind of dove right into some of the solutions that Vestcom helps them with. One of which is price communication at shelf on a price tag. But we also enable brands to leverage, brand messaging on a portion of that surface area. And one of the fundamental truths of shopper behavior is that however distracted mom might be as she's walking up and down that aisle in a grocery store, she will always look at the price tag to understand, is it on sale that day? Do I need to buy in multiples? There's a lot of other information on there. So to the degree that a brand can also communicate their brand message with versioning of creative, overlaying price promo, consumer promo overlays, it can become, a very effective tool to engage that shopper. And I would say that, Gallo is probably ahead of the curve in the industry when it comes to embracing the impact of in-store marketing tactics like a price tag, like signs, et cetera, and adjusting their marketing mix to where it matters most, which is where shoppers make their purchase decisions. And to Hollis' point, despite the rise of e-commerce over the last number of years, over 80% of transactions still occur in a brick and mortar environment. It's simply where consumers prefer to shop. I know when I shop, I like to pick out my own tomatoes. I like to sniff the cantaloupe, right? Mom, when she goes to the deli, might decide that day, you know what? I'm going to get the mesquite smoked turkey instead of, the honey smoked turkey. It looks better. She likes to walk up and down the aisles and cherry pick for deals. So this is where ultimately brands need to overinvest in their overall marketing mix, because this is where they can engage shoppers to drive trial, inspire brand switching, make impulse purchases, much more so than in a legacy media or digital environment. And as the leaders in shelf edge media, Vestcom has invested a significant amount of tactics and resources in enabling brands to effectively measure the impact of these various tactics, to Holly's point, whether it's creative versioning or other forms of A/B testing. We have the ability to understand what works best and what will drive the most incremental return on ad spend. And that's how we look at it as well as a lower level conversion vehicle. We look at iROAS.
So let's talk a little bit more about measurement. I mean, all of what you're both saying, it's really just reinforcing how critical the store is in influencing purchase behavior conversions. So, and also why real allocating the spend closer to the point of results is so important right now. So, how is all this influencing Holly, how you think about measurement? What's still missing when it comes to, in your view, demonstrating ROI for in-store retail media?
I'm very passionate about measurement. It's something I've been focused on from a shopper marketing lens in both adult bev and non-adult bev. And when you're thinking about iROAS, as Shock was mentioning, that is perfect for a always on campaign. I think when brands start to get distracted in terms of what you need to be measuring against, iROAS for a short campaign, a few months, isn't necessarily the number one source of measurement that you want to be focused on. Gallo brand teams are very much focused on ROAS and iROAS. So we utilize that from Vestcom in order to measure those always on campaigns. But what we're starting to test internally is taking some of those snippets and using it against shopper cart data, especially if we're utilizing different creative messaging in a subset of stores, maybe like a test and control of 100 to 200 stores. And then we're overlaying that with some of the shopper panel data. So understanding, is that driving conversion more? Are you seeing basket building? So that's what I would consider the next step in utilizing measurement with these campaigns.
Jock, what else? Is there anything else you'd add to that? I mean, how else can brands use this data as Holly knows to shop in their in-store strategies?
Yeah, I think she's spot on. I believe that when you consider the deployment of media budgets, you also have to consider where along the marketing funnel do those tactics reside. And the KPI that you measure against higher up in the funnel may not necessarily be the one that you would measure at the bottom of the funnel. So it truly is apples and oranges in that regard. From a Vestcom standpoint, everything we deliver to the shopper in terms of a communication is at that point of decision or point of purchase. As a conversion vehicle, we strongly encourage retailers and brands to measure the impact of any conversion vehicle using the iROAS methodology. Now, as you go higher up in the funnel, you might have tactics that are designed to build more awareness, in which case maybe ROAS is more appropriate. But I think the key is to make sure that you have access to the data, whether you have access to it yourself as a brand, or whether you partner with marketing services providers like Vestcom, who have access to that data by virtue of our very strategic retailer relationships. And then we also have, again, the resources with a fully functional insights and analytics team that can do that measurement for you. And we'll work with, the brand's, analytics teams to ensure that the methodology is appropriate and that we could add, any additional insights beyond iROAS, such as source of volume and many other, insights to the overall campaign. But having access to the data is key.
So I'm sure as you've been going through this with the process, I'm sure just in general, there's a lot of testing and learning going on throughout the organization. So can you talk about with your relationship with Vestcom, with some of the things you're working on, some of the things you've learned from testing these in-store tactics? How do you decide what to scale?
I think the biggest decision-making factor for scaling in terms of our Vestcom relationship so far has been twofold. One, creative that we had talked about previously, but also channel mix. So we're able to see grocery versus drug results from Vestcom, and that's been able to help us expand where we need to, modify where we need to as well. But I think even more now that we have been so focused on that last foot of purchase, Vestcom has more opportunities for us as we look to 2026, 2027, and beyond. So we feel really confident with how we're targeting shoppers at that last foot of purchase. What can we do to get that brand in their consideration set as they're walking into the store and even before? And Vestcom has those opportunities now. So we're really excited to see where the partnership goes, what the capabilities look like as we expand into the next few years.
So, Shock, I guess to build on that a little bit more, as omni-channel strategies are evolving, as brands are continuing to move them forward, what are some ways that brands can better connect their digital retail media efforts with what's happening in stores?
Yeah, great question. And I think stepping back a bit, we need to acknowledge that I think the definition of omni-channel has really evolved over the years as well. I think initially when that buzzword first came out, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, whenever it was, I think instinctively people define omni-channel as digital, right? Some form of digital engagement. And to a degree, going back to your very first question on, the shift to in-store media, to a degree, in-store media was still compartmentalized as something very distinct and separate. I think over time, more and more marketers and retailers are realizing that, a true omni-channel strategy is very much an integrated one. That yes, you initiate a conversation maybe somewhere else, and actually, initiate's probably the wrong word because every shopper is in a different place in their shopper journey. Even for particular categories, it will vary, right? At a specific point in time, I might need that cold cut pound of turkey today, but I'm good on toilet paper, right? And we'll need that for another month. So, there's a lot of shopper journeys occurring simultaneously for any particular individual. And so recognizing that, integrating that conversation wherever they are in that journey with whatever marketing tactic may be appropriate is a balance, right? And so I think it's healthy for brands to acknowledge that these shopper engagement opportunities are not distinct. They're very much, integrated. And I think it's all a matter of how do you delight the consumer with your brand message, both outside the store as well as inside the store. And that should be the North Star for any marketing strategy. Now, how that's accomplished with technology becomes really interesting, right? So it could be a QR code on a package. It could be a QR code, on a shelf tag or on a sign. It could also take the form of digital screens, which we see emerging at many retailers today. I think that, that is still a fairly nascent form of engagement, and there's an era of discovery with screens today in retailer environments. But I think that's certainly a lot of momentum there. And the tech enables brands and retailers to engage shoppers in new ways, but it has to be done right, or you risk creating a poor shopper experience and alienating the shopper. So I think we're going to continue to see technology really be the driver of that connection between physical and digital.
Area of discovery is a good way to put digital screens in stores right now, I think. So ultimately, the store is no longer a standalone touch point. There are really, within the shopper journey, no standalone touch points. They're all interconnected. So I want to wrap up here. As we do, I want to zoom out a little bit. So Holly, what is one parting thought that you can offer to brands as they think of the future of in-store retail media? And then Shock, I'm going to ask you a parting thought that you can offer to retailers.
Shock really teed us up because it's all about back to shelf. My goal is to ensure that a shopper is picking one of our products before they can even grab their phone to look something up and get distracted. Digital is still highly important, but we've drifted away in terms of our marketing spend of where the majority of sales is still occurring at shelf. Vestcom, and my other fact would be Vestcom is an always-on approach for brand. That cannot be said for a majority of other tactics out there. When brands are thinking about their always-on strategy, Vestcom needs to be one of the highest ones for consideration because of the proven ability to convert that shopper at shelf.
Shock, can you close us out with some parting words for retailers?
Yeah, I would love to, Lisa, but I can't resist just also sharing one insight for brand partners as well, piggybacking off of Holly's comments. Here's what I would say, and it kind of dovetails off my omni-channel comments. There's certainly a lot being explored on how to optimize the in-store engagement, but what's clear is that engaging shoppers in-store is a much more relevant environment than any other point in the omni-channel journey. So I would encourage marketers like Gallo to continue to assess the right balance in their marketing mix on ensuring that they're deploying their dollars in areas where they can measure true conversion and get the most bang for their buck. For retailers, it's somewhat of a similar message. I think the challenge for retailers is how do I balance my appetite for monetization with the need for innovation? But doing so with the voice of the consumer in mind, or in this case, the shopper. Always let that be the guiding principle in determining what solutions to deploy. And I think after that, everything falls into place. So, as you do so, just ensure that you partner with service providers that can be nimble, that have the right CPG relationships, that have a number of technologies that allow them to adapt to your merchandising strategies as well, and be able to deliver for you in a rapidly changing environment.
Great words to leave us with. So, Shock, Holly, thank you so much for joining. Really excited to bring this conversation, the Path to Purchase Institute, to our members and our audience.
My pleasure. Thank you. And thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Shock.